The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters. He should have immediately denounced the mob when he saw what was unfolding. These facts require immediate action by President Trump. I believe impeaching the president in such a short time frame would be a mistake. A vote to impeach would further divide this nation. A vote to impeach will further fan the flames of partisan division.
That was House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy making a rare public break from President Trump on Wednesday. The Republican congressman voted against impeaching the president, arguing it would further divide the country. Now, Congressman Don Beyer of Virginia and several other Democratic members of Congress are calling for McCarthy to resign. Following last week's attack on the Capitol, Beyer rebuked the Republican leader on Twitter, saying McCarthy, quote, spread the very lies that helped incite this violence. He stood shoulder to shoulder with Trump in trying to destroy our democracy. And Congressman Don Beyer joins me now. He represents Virginia's 8th District. Congressman Beyer, welcome. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Elaine.
Well, when it comes to acknowledging the president's responsibility for the attack on the Capitol, Leader McCarthy went further than many of your Republican colleagues. So why do you believe that he should resign as minority leader?
Well, Kevin only did that long after the fact. Let's remember that on that day, January 6th, clearly they live in infamy, all the attention was on Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley, the two senators, who are literally backbenchers. They don't chair any committees. They don't lead anything. They got a lot of attention with the terrorist fist bump. But Kevin McCarthy actually is a leader of the Congress. He was elected unanimously by his House caucus to be the minority leader. He's been empowering and enabling Donald Trump the whole time. But worst of all, after the mob attack, after the deaths, after all the bad things that happened, Kevin actually increased the number of people up to 140 Republicans who voted to decertify those electors from Pennsylvania. I mean, he was an active part of enabling Trump's lies that the election had been stolen, that these votes, 60 legal cases didn't matter.
So let me ask you, because in lieu of impeachment, as you know, Leader McCarthy wants a fact-finding mission to review the president's involvement. What's your response to that?
Well, there certainly will be, probably a major commission along the lines of the 9/11 Commission. But when Kevin McCarthy argues for censure, it's like saying, well, here's a little pat on the back. That what Donald Trump incited last Wednesday was the first successful attack on the Capitol since the British in 1814. It was like something we've never seen before. And, we answer lots of emails and phone calls every day. I'm running 97% in my district for impeaching Trump. I mean, you can't please all the people all the time, but this is pretty close to that.
I mean, what would resigning actually accomplish in your mind if he were, it seems highly unlikely, but if he were, what would that actually achieve from your perspective?
Well, the biggest thing it would achieve, I don't think it's likely. But I do think that I would much rather see responsible Republican leadership. Conservative, yes. People that are clinging to the traditional Republican values. People more like a Liz Cheney or a Tom Rice. And get rid of the conspiracy, QAnon, gun-toting folks that Kevin is leading right now.
It sounds to me, Congressman, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds to me like you're saying Republicans have to choose a side. Either you're with the president or you're not.
Well, that division is becoming ever clearer. And in fact, one of the most interesting statistics I've seen this week is that more than half of the Trump supporters identify solely as Trump loyalists, and a much smaller amount even consider themselves Republicans. As Joe Biden in the last election said it was a fight for the soul of America, now we're seeing a fight for the soul of the Republican Party. Is it going to be about Donald Trump, or is it going to be about traditional Republican conservatives and leaders who have been part of our history?
Let me ask you, I mean, you mentioned Joe Biden. Democrats, of course, won control, the House and the Senate. Joe Biden is going to be sworn in next week. So why does it matter to you who actually leads Republicans in Congress?
Well, I think it makes a big difference in terms of whether we can get things done. We have the smallest Democratic majority in the House since 1896. It's 50-50 in the Senate with only Kamala Harris as a tiebreaker. We're going to have to work together. And if we have people who think that we are satanic and child pedophiles, to be redundant, that's not going to work. If we can get clear-thinking, conservative Republican legislators, we can do a lot together.
Let me ask you about the overall sort of atmosphere. So President Trump's impeachment charge is predicated on reckless and inflammatory rhetoric. But do you see this toxic partisanship as just a Republican problem? Or do you see this being really the result of also not just Republicans, but some actions and some of the rhetoric on the Democrat side?
Well, I think at different times we're all guilty of going too far. Hopefully it doesn't lead to people dying. And I think both sides reflect the deep cultural divides that we have right now, which are very disturbing, on race, on who's benefited from our capitalism. And probably the hardest thing for us is determining what's the truth. What facts do you believe? We're long gone from 3 networks and a couple of major newspapers. And so there are many, many different versions of what the truth is out there. Working together to agree on common values and common facts is going to be essential for us to move forward.
Let me ask you, Congressman, I mean, you alluded to the fact that there is tremendous support in your district for impeaching President Trump. But what would you say to those supporters of the president who do not at all condone the violence that we saw last week, but who may feel that they are somehow disenfranchised and that their voices are not being heard? And while they don't at all agree with the tactics and the violence of that mob that attacked the Capitol, they do worry and they do wonder what happens now. What's your message to them?
I mean, it's a really important existential struggle. My initial message, and I think probably the most important one, is that we're a few hours away from having a president who wants to represent everybody, including those 75 million people that voted for Donald Trump, that wants to unite us. As General Mattis has said, Donald Trump was the first president in our history who determined to divide us, to pit one person against each other. And I do think that for all those that voted for Donald Trump, we have a sacred obligation to meet their real needs. To the extent that they have grievance because they've been left out of this economy and not respected, we need to pay attention to that. We need to be there to serve all Americans.
All right, Virginia Congressman Don Beyer. Mr. Congressman, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for your good questions, too. Thank you.